Once ready, and with the passage of a few days, he sought out his quarry, in the dark alley where he had been slain prior, and sure enough, it was there once more, and he approached it slowly. "Hello, friend." It looked up, slowly, the colour draining from its face as it saw the one it killed but a few nights prior stood there before him once again. He could feel the fear rising in it, and smiled broadly as it tried to run. He leapt forward and grabbed its wrist. "You said you would show me your god." It shook with fear as it clawed at his hand, trying to release the grip, but soon discovered that it was futile, and sagged visibly with resignation. "Help!" it shouted suddenly, as though it had realized a strategy that would save it from this madman. "Help! Mugger!" He threw his body into the one who had slain him, and crushed the wind out of his lungs as it slammed into the wall. "You owe me a god," he said, still smiling. It tried to speak, but found a hand clamped across its face tightly, cutting its voice from the night air, and it then became aware of the voice. It began in its head and seemed to echo around the alley. "Run. Seek help." It froze for a second, and then elation hit. "He has heard my calls!" And it found a renewed vigour. The man who held him tight began to relax his grip, and it tried to shove him away. As the grasp on the wrist slipped, it felt the arm go limp, and the body was pushed easily away, allowing it to knock him to the ground. "You aren't getting up this time!" it said, pulling a pair of knives from its boot and setting to work on his chest, neck and face. All that was left was more food for the rats. He looked from his new vantage point, slightly taller than he was used to, and spoke again. "Good work. Now quickly, before he rises again." It nodded to the night and ran into the darkness, through several tunnels and holes, doors, several windows, eventually resting outside a large, heavy-set door, with strange markings upon it. As it gathered its breath, it gasped, "Thank you, Lord, for giving me the strength to fight that thing off." It was nothing. "Now take me home." And it nodded, rapping upon the door of the huge building crafted from a strange black stone. The door opened slowly, and a guard stood in metal and leather, and nodded, allowing it in. It walked through a few corridors, stopped at an imposing robed figure who gestured to a small chamber, and left it there. Within the room lay several small stools, a table, a few stiff-looking cushions, and a small altar of offering. This was it, he thought, looking intently at the altar. "Finally, I can see what it is they do." And he waited. It knelt in front of the altar, lowering its head, slowing its breathing, and clearing its thoughts. As it was calmed and ready, several minutes had passed, and the faint smell of insects began to drift into the air, seemingly from the altar itself. "Tonight I met a man who I slew the night last," it began, speaking slowly to the altar, "and I did as you asked, and made sure he did not return again." And with that he bowed his head to the floor and waited. "You were told to kill me." He thought, pondering what truths this place would hold, and waited. Nothing. No power, no threads, no contact, just nothing. "Of course I will continue to do your bidding," it said, and rifled around its pockets, dropping the coins it had taken from his body the nights before into a box at the side of the altar. "I will bring you more next time to receive your blessings again. Thank you for your aid and words this night." He had spoken to this creature, no one else. There was nothing contacting this creature but him, and now he was with him. He would sense if anything was touching his soul or his body, but no. He sensed nothing. "Something is amiss here," he mused, and waited. It stood up after a few minutes, and seemed to be waiting for something. The large robed figure that had motioned it into this room earlier entered, and picked up the box, shaking it slightly. A nod was given, and a sense of relief was felt from the figure as it left the chamber. Wait, was this it? Those coins were all they were bothered about. But he had said he had heard... Oh. It looked into a bowl of water on the table, and as it did, it saw not what he had seen, but something else. It saw an image that it did not, an image of a stronger creature, a more confident creature. It thought it was something it was not, and all because of its belief in this altar, or whatever it was representing. It made no sense, but then it dawned on him. I spoke to it, and it thought I was the one it served. And he smiled. It did not know. It could not distinguish between me and a voice that, by the look of it had never known. They were manipulated this easily. Well, this could even be fun. Well done, he said to it, and it blinked the water from its eyes as it washed its face. You are still with me? It asked, slowly, shocked by getting another voice. Oh yes, I am with you until your end. Oh, how much fun this could be. The power to make it do as he wanted, and all because it thought he was a greater power. Not that he was not, but that it thought he was whatever this thing he followed was. Tell me my name, believer, the voice said in its head, and it nodded to the altar and stood straight as though being observed by a superior. Your name is Arnosh, god of the dark paths, of the night. He sought this knowledge, and knew nothing of such a host, although more could have been spread than he knew of course, and there were more primes than he had seen too. Perhaps this was a true host. He would need to find this one, and take it. Come, I will guide you to a truth of the night, but you must hurry, for if light breaks the day, you will never find it. He laughed inwardly as it jumped, looking around frantically. Where do you need me to go? It shouted, spinning around, shouting to the ceiling, and then the altar. It felt the voice seemingly smile from within him, and it felt it had been touched by the very gods themselves. He led it through the streets, back where it had passed that night, as it was the only route he knew, and past the scene of his would-be demise earlier and previously. The rats had been here already. Eventually, an out-of-breath human happened upon a ramshackle hut, beneath which lay a long-forgotten cave system, and within this system lay a portal to the last place it would ever know. Exhausted, it collapsed just outside the hut, watching the night slowly slipping from above, and the first rays of light threatening to breach the slowly lightening sky. On your feet and quickly now, before the light touches you. Of course, sorry, it said, as it slowly dragged its panting body into the hut, and then through the tunnels, guided by an unnatural vision that it did not possess itself, as though being granted a sight beyond mere mortals. It was, just not from where it thought it was from. He had enjoyed watching this creature do his bidding, run across the city on his command, without question, and he had felt the joy, the euphoria, and the elation as it had been touched by a voice that was, to the best of its knowledge, that of its own god. Perhaps this is why they follow, and why the host allowed them to do so. And he recalled something he had been told by the great scaled ones. They follow blindly in some cases, but in almost all they follow because they see something in that deity that they wish to aspire to hold on to become one with. For some it is for betterment, and for others it is for penance, but it serves both supplicant and God. You see, the power of the gods' gift unto their followers, their believers, their armies, is also returned to them in greater portion by their supplicants' belief in them. In short, the gods give power and receive power back, and it is always the gods that gain in this pact. So this creature believed he was something it was not, and what it saw in the water was what it was aspiring to, what it believed this God was giving it. Its own mind created a belief in something that he could find no trace of. Was it even there? he would soon find out when he met in person.